Hello, folks. It's just gone 12:40 on the 12th of June, 2020. Well, just in a video that, in all honesty, it's one of those videos that the channel is Now This News, and I've always known this channel was pretty much a left-wing channel. But yeah, I will link the video. The premise of the video is that there's this angry man in a crowd of protesters. The protesters, I said, there's about 30 protesters on a street corner. That's it. They're shouting and screaming the word peaceful. Now, this man is getting irate, to say the least. Effing and blinding. F you. These people. One point, he's shouting in the face of this lady who's brown skinned, and she just looks at him, doesn't react. So, of course, what they want to do is interview her. Now, first of all, this new channel has this clip, but you don't see how it starts. It's quite possible. I mean, I know that quite often you have protesters, and when the protesters are shouting, if you try and walk through them, they will then start shouting this stuff in your face because they get offended that you tried to walk through them rather than join them. Now, if they did this to this chap, I can completely understand how he got irate. Right? Now, he was charged in the end with disorderly conduct. Now, again, if it started where they were the instigators somehow, it should have been them charged, not him. I personally would have preferred to have found out why was he so angry. As I say, I will link the video, and you see on the video that these people are... The video makes a point that the people are saying peaceful, right? The problem is the people aren't saying peaceful. They are screaming peaceful in this man's face, basically. And the more irate he's getting, the more they're shouting it at him, the more they're pointing at him, the more they're laughing at him. Ugh. It's one of those situations that you look at and you can just see, it's not necessarily the singular man. I wouldn't necessarily blame him for that situation. I don't know how it started. But of course, this channel is blaming him, and they've got his face up on their channel as an evil man. And there was another one the other day where it was an old lady being slightly racist. I didn't see the young girl she was speaking to. I didn't see her that well. Don't know if she was a person who had brown skin. No idea. But the lady was getting irate. Started off getting irate because I think she was trying to get down some steps, but this lady was doing her exercising and videoing her stretching on the actual steps that the lady was trying to come down. Now, I understand the point that if this lady's trying to get these steps and this young lady is more focused on doing her video for her Instagram and using the bottom of the steps to do that, then of course that's a problem for the old lady who's trying to come down the steps. I think the old lady overreacted massively. She was basically telling the woman to go back to where she's from, something like that, and this isn't her town, and etc., 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 etc. The normal sort of stuff you get. So there's a lot of that at the moment. Yeah. Yeah. The situation is not great. And there's a lot of protesting, and with protesting, you're going to get And people are saying now about the fact that if the authorities don't start stopping these protesters from vandalising stuff, then you are going to get people going out trying to stop the protesters. You'll get anti-protesters going out. And then you're going to have some battles between the protesters and anti-protesters. And yeah, that's not a good situation if that happens. And will it happen? I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. Well, apparently there was supposed to be a massive protest due this weekend, but because of rain forecast, they've cancelled it. So, well, you can say one thing about the protesters, therefore, they're not actually that bothered about the issues if they're going to cancel everything. Yeah, I mean, you heard them initially saying, these protesters saying, sod coronavirus, this is far more important. But rain can stop the play. Yeah, rain is more important than the issues. Corona wasn't, but rain is. You don't want to get wet. Yeah. You don't mind getting coronavirus and passing it on to loads of people, and therefore people will die because of that. But getting a bit wet, no, you don't want that, do you? I mean, you could take a brolly, an umbrella, and not get so wet. Yeah. I cancel it because of a bit of rain. So Black Lives Matter as long as it's not raining. Okay. Oh, dear me. I saw a video actually yesterday. It's quite funny. A lady did two videos. One where she was supposedly speaking to herself from January and sort of saying, well, some good news and bad news. The bad news is, you need to find a hobby. You won't be working. The lady says, I'll be going abroad for my work. And her character from April was just laughing, saying, no, you won't be doing that. But then she did a second video. Her from June was then speaking to her from April. And her from April was saying, well, okay, so obviously the coronavirus is getting better. People might be in lockdown now. And her from June said, it's got far worse. She says, not the coronavirus, it's something else that's got far, far worse now. She said, I can't really tell you what the worst news is, but it's far worse than what it is now in April. I think the poo really does hit the fan. And so, yeah, go back and tell yourself from April. You think things are bad now because we're locked down. You ain't seen nothing yet. Oh, dear me. Oh, dear. Where it all ends, we don't know. No idea. I mean, the situation with regards to the awful problems in America with the police and the people of brown skin in some communities, it's most likely going to evolve in very, very little changing. Very, very little indeed. They protest to get it out of the system, and then things will just go back to the way they were before. And then in a year's time, maybe if it goes that long, there'll be another incident the same or very, very similar. There'll be an unlawful death of someone who has brown skin, and then it will all erupt again. Crazy business. Well, just think about it in this sense. The protesters this time are far worse than they were last time. The issue is far worse than last time because of the way this Mr. Floyd was killed. Previous people have been suffocated to death or shot for no particular reason. This was 9 minutes on video. Far worse, therefore. Someone being shot on video, that's pretty instant. Someone being suffocated, even on video, that can take maybe a few minutes, but that's it. 9 minutes this took. Now, what is going to be the next thing to make things worse? I mean, you can't see anything happening for a long time. that could be worse than that. I mean, what do the police officers have to do to make things bad enough to actually get things sorted out for the protesters to say, right, that's it, we're not going to stop protesting until we've got real change? What has to happen? Because, suffocation by strangulation was not enough. Shooting was not enough. This situation, certainly in the UK, they're cancelling protests because of rain. So that what happened to George Floyd was not enough for people to be that serious about it. Not if a bit of rain stops them. Yeah. So what needs to happen to push the changes through? That's the thing, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know what awful things going to have to happen and how. I mean, what more can a police officer do than that? Really, that was 9 minutes of horror. Was there going to be a quarter of an hour horror of someone being killed incredibly slowly? How would? Oh. I mean, it wouldn't surprise you if something like that did happen anyway. It wouldn't. I mean, even if these three officers get found guilty, but I don't think they will. I think the three officers who stood by are more likely to be found guilty than the one officer who had his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck. Well, because they've charged him with second-degree murder now, which I don't think they're going to prove. I don't think they've got any chance of proving it, which is why they wanted to go with third degree, which they could have proved, because the video itself proved it. But when the public pushed them to, go further, they've gone for something that now I don't think they can prove. So that's not good in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, it's not a situation that looks easy to be resolved. Really, I mean, yeah. I mean, the less accountability there is, I mean, at the moment, I think one of the biggest battles now is going to be the police unions, because people are starting to realise that the police union is the problem. The unions themselves are the problem. But that's not necessarily the case. I mean, the video I done yesterday explained that a little bit. Other videos I've done explain that a little bit. The one where I did the rage against the right. The one I done yesterday explained the same thing, that police unions are correct to be afraid of allowing reform in because of the way the left have been behaving. So, with that being the case, obviously the left have got to tone down their behaviour for the police unions to believe that their officers will get a fair deal. Yeah, because any reform is obviously going to be a reform about disciplinary action and how officers can be disciplined and how that procedure can work. How bad officers can be got out of the police force. Well, of course, the problem is the police unions, their job is to take care of the police, of their men. Now, knowing what they know about people and the nature of people and the way that the left has behaved, they are incredibly concerned and rightly concerned about their officers. And everyone else should be as well, because anyone who's a good officer shouldn't be a victim of perceived prejudice and fired and losing all his benefits and his pension because someone has perceived that he's been racist even though he hasn't. And if you think that's not going to happen, you are massively mistaken. If the left get their will done, the police will be decimated in no time at all. And that's what the unions are scared of, and they're rightly scared of it. So the unions aren't necessarily the problem. They are part of the problem, but part of the reason why they're the problem is because of the left. The extreme way the left has been behaving. So, really difficult. not easy in any way, shape, or form to solve, because they're going down one avenue and they need to widen everything and say, right, first of all, you're on the left, behave yourselves. Right, stop screaming for people to be destroyed because they made a mistake years ago. Yeah, that means that the job that we want to do now is harder to do because people don't trust you. So tone it down a bit, tone it in. Give us a chance to actually reform things. But is that going to happen? No, because generally speaking, the left don't like being told that they're wrong, don't they, either? They get highly offended by it. So generally speaking, if you've got a mayor or a police chief turn the left to tone it down, I imagine they would be out their job in no time at all. So, yeah. That's why I say I doubt somehow that there will be much in the way of change from this. I seriously doubt it. Based on the fact that unless you're dealing with everything that needs to be changed, there's always going to be a reason why this can't happen, a reason why that hasn't happened, a reason why that hasn't happened. But you've got to deal with the reasons. You've got to take the barriers away so that these changes can happen. But of course, if they've got a fear of if we change then that's going to happen, you've got to help them to realise that that's not going to happen. You've got to make sure that what they fear won't happen. Because you bet your bottom dollar, if that starts happening, the police will go on strike. They will go on strike. Their unions will get all their powers back. And whatever changes you've made will be lost. If the left then start to prosecute officers that aren't guilty and they get found guilty because of perceived issues or because, in the past people weren't found guilty, so now we're going to find everyone guilty, whether they're guilty or not. If any of that starts to happen, game over. Things will just revert to what they were before and you will have no chance of changing it. You will go another 50, 60 years before there'd be any possibility of any change. You've got to deal with the whole situation, and that's why doing these videos is about trying to highlight stuff like this. Even though, if I just have 7 people watching the videos, you've got to hope that maybe one of those 7 people speaks to someone who then speaks to someone and then speaks to someone. But chances are that's not going to happen. But that seems to be the wisdom on the situation, is that if the police are concerned about A, B, and C, what happens if they do this? But then you've got to ensure that A, B, and C won't happen. You've got to take their fears away. Same as with the police in general. You've got to take their fears away about the brown community, or the brown communities, and the people with brown skin. You've got to take their fears away about the police, that they're not going to be, abused and murdered by the police for no reason at all. Because the police hate brown people. You've got to take all that away in order to start dealing with the issue. Because you can't deal with anything when people are still absolutely full of fear. In all those areas, you've got to understand the fears and you've got to deal with them before you can get anything dealt with. That's just the reality of the situation. Now, if you've got someone who's in a dangerous situation, but they're holding on to something, and their knuckles are going white because they're holding on so blinking tight, and they have to let go so you can save them, you've got to get rid of that fear first, haven't you? You've got to deal with that fear. They are holding on so tight because their body is telling them if they don't, they're going to die. So you've got to deal with that first, because you've got to get them to let go. You can't take them away from that situation until they, first of all, they've got to trust you, and they've got to trust that the worst thing they believe will happen if they let go won't happen. It's the same as the police. It's the same as the community of people with brown skin. They need to realise that if they relax, that the worst is not going to happen. The police unions need to realise if they relax, the worst thing is not going to happen. So that's where the work has to be. You've got to deal with the fear. Deal with the fear, get people to relax. Now you can start talking. Now you can start reforming the situations. If the unions had to be reformed, but so did the minds of the people. Because, as I said, people have been told all these horror stories for years and years and years about the history, about the abuse of their people, even though there's no such thing as their people, because they're not a people. Just because they share a skin colour, they're not a people, but because they've been labelled a people, anything that happens to one person with brown skin happens to your brother or your sister. Now, of course, you get more emotional because you associate your brother or your sister as one of your loved ones. And when things happen to your loved ones, you get more emotional. But these other people in other cities who are not related to you are not your loved ones. They're not related to you. But again, the understanding has to be changed. It has to be reformed. All that past has to be let go. All the point about reformations for slavery has to let go because that's part of the problem. So deal with that. Yes, there were people taken from Africa. Most of the brown-skinned people are a result of people being taken from Africa and used in slavery. Yeah. But the Roman Empire took people from France, from Spain, from the UK, from Norway, from Greece, from all these different places and enslaved them. That means that we should all be getting Reformation from Italy. If that's the case, Italy is now a very, very poor country. They're not coping very well, are they, with the economy? And so I don't think they're going to be able to manage to pay us all back. And as far as I know, most people in Europe don't have a chip on our shoulder about what the Italian people did. There are some people with brown skin that do have a chip on their shoulder about what happened in the past, but that's down to the storytelling. That's down to that insistent storytelling about the horrors of the past. Let it go. If you want to move forward, if you want a better future, you can't keep on living in the past. Simple. You want to live in the past, then things are going to be just like that. Because they have to be just like that. In order for you to live in the past, you have to go through that crap all the time. Yeah, you have to be able to say Black Lives Matter. Now, if things were better, you wouldn't be bothered about saying Black Lives Matter because soon things would be better. Yeah, you'd be taken care of. You wouldn't be in danger. Your people wouldn't be treated in such a way, although maybe they would. Because that's the point. If it's a case of the worthlessness-ism rather than racism, but then I'm sorry, but your people would still be abused by the police. Because it's not colour related. It's something completely different. Anyway, there you go. Certainly, if it's simply a case of racism and all that sort of stuff, and police unions need to be reformed, you're going to deal with the fear. Deal with the fear so that you can deal with the problem. All right, you take care. God bless. Bye-bye.